How's your evening going?
My evening is going well, just working on some new projects as always.
Really loving In Pieces. It's a great piece of work. I just like keep telling everyone about it. I'm like, yeah, just tell me about like where In Pieces like started for you and how you got into it and what it's all about.
Yeah, in pieces, actually, well, first of all, thank you for all the kind words. Thank you so much. I know we've talked a little bit on social media and everything, and you've always been so supportive, so I really appreciate all of that. But yeah, in pieces, honestly originated because a lot of people had kind of asked for it. A lot of the song, I've been releasing music for a really long time, and I released a couple of albums, and a lot of them were standalone songs from my life, but were still theatricalized in some kind of way, shape, or form. And people started asking, what if you put together some kind of song cycle or musical that, used your music in a way that was similar to like a Songs for a New World or something like that. And so that was sort of the beginning, the impetus for the piece. And then as I was sort of like putting together, like what would be like my greatest hits version of my music, and what would flow well together, I wanted to come up with something that also was threaded together, character wise, narratively, more so than just sort of like a collection of songs that were tied together by just a theme, how a lot of song cycles tend to be. So once I kind of like figured out my song list and everything for the show, I then tried to start applying them to certain characters that felt like it could tell a bigger story, an overarching story for these characters versus it being sort of like a person one, person two, and they are kind of a variety of characters throughout the show. In this show, everyone is a specific character, and you see them going through kind of the coming of age years of their life and the relationships or the relationship that was kind of the pivotal one for them in kind of growing up.
It is a song cycle, and like how does it relate to like the musical theater world?
Yeah, a song cycle tends to be almost like a heightened musical review or a heightened cabaret almost, or in some ways even like a jukebox musical, where you take a writer's music, say it is Jason Robert Brown, or but it also kind of depends, because I think that for Songs for a New World, it wasn't like those songs lived separately before they were turned into Songs for a New World. I'm thinking maybe more so almost a little bit like, I know Steven Schwartz just had something recently that was, I think it's called Snapshots, and that takes a bunch of songs from his catalog and kind of puts them in a new narrative together. So I think of a song cycle as being sort of like a bunch of songs that can live isolated by themselves, but then also can be brought together and tied together, whether thematically or in this case, additionally narratively.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And did you have help with In Pieces? Like, did you have a group of people that you worked with?
You know, yes, it always takes a village. I originally was putting it together. Our first presentation of it was in 2017 at Lincoln Center, and I was working with the director of that series to kind of just like first explore what this could potentially be. And after putting on that version of the piece, it was, I felt really motivated to continue working on it, but then it kind of went on the back burner as other projects took kind of the priority. So it wasn't until I was going to go off and workshop it sometime. Gosh, well, we were playing around with it in 2018 as well, but then I was going to be going and doing a workshop of it in 2020 overseas, but then COVID happened. And so then, we all didn't know what we were doing. And then it wasn't until a director of a program, head of a program in Kent State, University in Ohio, which also was very fitting because there's a song called Ohio in the show. Um, Reached out and asked, was inquiring about it. And I hadn't, really continued developing it, because of COVID shutting down and because of whatever. And once he expressed interest, it was a great opportunity to reopen up the piece and figure out, okay, how can I, make this first version of it the closest to what I think I want it to be, and in that collaboration process, not only is it wonderful to have had a production to kind of, I worked really closely with them. I worked with the director, and they were doing a virtual production of it, so that added its additional, challenges and whatnot. But it was really great to work with them and kind of being in some ways almost like a lab of some kind, or a development workshop of some kind. And my husband also is basically the creative director and music supervisor of everything that I do. So he was very vital in everything. And has been since. He is I bounce everything off of him.
I was gonna say, because did I see something? There's like he put out a new production studio or something.
Yes, he is a multi-hyphenate, multi-talented person. You can see some of our gear in the back of my studio right now. But yeah, he, in addition to being an actor and a musician, he's also a music director and a vocal coach, and then also has a whole production company now with videography. He does video and music producing and consultation, and helps bring other people's visions to life, as I've been kind of the guinea pig over the last couple of years, and I've been very grateful for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've also had a few other productions of In Pieces. I know there's one in London, or?
Yeah. Well, the album, because the album came out last year, and that kind of came together because suddenly, while we were exploring the piece at the end of 2020, it was like, well, why don't we just package it up and put it together and license it so that there can be other universities, other small theater companies produce this piece that is very producible, especially in this hybrid world that we're living in. Brian and I, we re-recorded all 22 songs here in our studio remotely. Got drum stems from my drummer who has his own little studio in his apartment. It's a very New York musician kind of album. My guitarist was, recording guitar tracks in his home studio. And, that became sort of like our big project during, the first kind of year of COVID. But while that was happening, we were like, okay, well, now we've recorded all these instrumental tracks. Now schools can also get these add-ons so that they don't have to worry about even getting a band together, and they can produce this show without that extra hurdle, in whatever sort of protocols they're having to follow, in these odd times. So then once we did that, it was like, well, I have, a lot of the songs, like I said earlier, lived on previous albums, but there were a handful of songs that hadn't been released. And so I had all these really great sounding tracks, and I was like, why don't I just, call up some of my favorite people and ask if they would be a part of this sort of highlights package that completed the whole musical world of In Pieces for people that didn't know what the show was. And that's what became the Highlights album. And then once the rights became available at the end of 2020, we got so much incredible first interest from a whole bunch of people. And one of those being that London production company that did like a kind of a cinematic virtual production of it that came out around the album. And then we had about 12 other productions that happened just in its first year all over. And now an Australian cast was just announced their cast like 2 days ago, which is so exciting and so cool. So it's been a really exciting journey. And I'm, Brian and I have a very small team. We're doing it all kind of on our own, but it's been very fulfilling. And hopefully the village will keep growing though, because I could use that.
Because I was watching Me and Mr. Popularity. I had originally done an interview with Andrew Barth Feldman about this in pieces, and it was funny when I was looking it up. The drummer Josh Roberts, I think is his name. So like, yeah. I actually had met Josh like this past year, like at one of because he plays with one of my friends. It was like a whole like musical theater thing. It's like crazy how like everyone's connected.
So many small, short degrees of separation between everybody. And that's what I think is so cool about New York, is that we all can kind of run into each other very easily. It's cool.
Yeah, totally. So like, what was the process like in like choosing the people? Like, did you get to choose who like sang, or like did like they come to you, like you went to that? Like, how did it work? What was the process like?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fangirl of every single person on this album, and so all of them I had, with the exception of David Archuleta, all of them I had, crossed paths with, at events, at shows, or have worked with in the past. So there's a handful of people on the album that were in the very first presentation. Brad Greer, Mia Gerakis, Stevie and Cremona, they were a part of the very first presentation, and are good friends of mine. Andrew and I have been wanting to work together for a while. And so I knew that he was just perfect for me and Mr. Popularity. Like, I thought he was perfect, and then I saw him and I heard him on it, and it was like even more perfect. Like, he was just so fantastic on that. And then George Salazar, I've been a fan for the longest time of him, and we've been wanting to work together. So that was a fun one to work on. His recording session was in his closet in LA with his iPad FaceTiming me, and I was giving notes as he was recording. Like, it was such a fun project to work on. And then David was such a dream come true. I was so grateful and lucky that his management responded to my cold email, my blind reach out, so that's kind of how it all came together. I just basically reached out to a bunch of people that I love, that I knew, and thankfully people made it happen.
That's amazing. I love that. I mean, I was listening to it and I'm like, wait, I know this person. Wait, I know this person. And then it's like, and it's just like, it was so great, like to hear their voices, like in something new and fresh and like different. And I guess like one of the other things is like how, like, because of the response, like what do you think people are connecting with, like from the music? Like, what do you think it is about it?
I don't, how do I say this without sounding however, but I don't actually overthink or overcomplicate the things that I'm trying to say. I don't try to be very, I'm not trying to be super, I just think it's honest. I think I come from a really like authentic, honest place when I'm writing about, especially with these songs, they're parts of my life, and I write with sort of just that authenticity, I guess, without kind of like tooting my own horn or whatever. But like, I think that's what people grab onto, is that it's not trying to be overly fancy, and so it's easier to connect to the core of what the story is, and I think that's maybe perhaps one of the things that has been successful with it, is in addition to other things that people might say that they love. And I think it also just, I mean, I'm a, I like the album. I'm proud of myself. I think the songs are catchy and great, and so I'm glad that other people are feeling the same.
Yeah, when I listen to it, I think one of the things that I get from it is like a connectedness. Like even though like we're all kind of like separate in our own way, there's like a sense of like, but we're really all the same. Um, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that there's sort of like this what I think it's so oversaid, but I'm gonna probably not say it that eloquently. But there was something about you know the something being so specific and related, but also so universal at the same time. So when I don't think someone has to have been on the one train and run into their ex to know exactly what that feels like, because they can apply their own version of what that is if they're not in New York City. But then if you're in New York City, you really know what that's like, you know?
Yeah, totally. So just moving away from In Pieces for a minute, the song Break from the Line.
Break from the Line, I wrote after I got ghosted from a production that I thought was going to be my big break.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah, I had like I had signed contracts. I was going to be writing for this TV series. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I thought this was like the moment, because I don't think a lot of people realize that being a musical theater writer is not that easy. It's not, and having it be like it's not the most lucrative thing. And so we are, hear about struggling actors, a lot of struggling musical theater writers too, um, and so I was really excited about the paycheck. I was excited about the opportunity, and so when they kind of production was pretty chaotic and then it didn't work out. I was pretty sad and I remember crying in the bathroom about it. And so I thought, well, let me just like, how can I get this out the only way I know how, which is to write a song about it, as cheesy as that sounds. And I wrote a song that was like not about being the victim, but more so just about remembering what my worth is and remembering that my chance is out there, that my time is there, and I'm going to break from the line, and just kind of owning that. So when it says like I try to stay away from the blues, this path is hard, but it's the one that I choose. So there, life isn't easy anywhere, and it's very plainly that. And then I didn't really do much with the song. And then I was getting ready for a concert in London and working with one of my best friends, Natalie Weiss. And she was like, you should turn this into a duet. And I was like, I mean, okay. I mean, she's brilliant. She's always right. So I'll be like, well, sure, let's go. And we just ended up like back and forth sending voice memos till like 2 a.m. for a whole week, just kind of coming up with, because the song has a lot of intricate harmonies and the vocals kind of intertwine and stuff like that. And so that was kind of a fun arrangement to do together. And then I called up Taylor Louderman. I asked if she'd be a part of it, and then that was when we released it. I had no idea it was going to be what it became, and it's been such a gift for me as a writer to see how much it's connected with people.
Like after like you didn't get like that what's it called, that part in like whatever it was, how do you like recover from that? How do you say like, oh, I'm gonna like, no, this isn't gonna bring me down, I'm gonna do more? Like how do you like what do you do to get yourself like into that next place?
I think I think a lot of writers would say that there are moments where you think you just aren't going to do it anymore. And like it's that easy to just hang it up, but it's not. There have been so many times where I thought, I'm I'm done. I'm done. And then the thought, literally the next day, the thought of not writing a song ever again or not doing this ever again gave me so much anxiety because it's just not who I am.
Right.
I have to. And that's that, you know? So that's what kind of keeps me going.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And is there someone that you like that that kind of like guides you, like that you look up to in the music world, that someone you might want to collaborate with or like have collaborated with, that has been like inspiration to you, or like someone, I don't know, someone you want to work with in the future that you're currently in talks with or anything like that?
I have a dream list of people that I would always want to work with.
Well, who's on that top list?
Long. I I would always love to work with Kelly Clarkson. That would be a dream.
Oh, Kelly.
I would love, I think a lot of my friends and people that know me know that if I were to write a song for Britney Spears, that would be a big, that I don't know. I literally don't know what I would do if Britney sang one bar of a song I wrote. I think that'd be the best thing. And I could say that yeah, better than a Tony would be Britney Spears singing one bar of a song I wrote. But yeah, and then I think that I admire a lot of Jason Robert Brown has always been someone that I admire, and Max Martin is another songwriter that I love. He's in the pop world, and Sarah Bareilles. Those are some other people that I just look up to musically and as writers.
And so with M Pieces being like so popular now, like where is it going? Do you see it going to Broadway? Like, is it something being talked about? Or
There are conversations, and and that's where we are right now. I'm excited about the possibilities. I'm excited about the conversations, and I think that if we can make it happen, it'll be really cool. But I'm pretty optimistic that New York will see a production of In Pieces that I'm behind very soon.
awesome. And just as like a last question, do you have like a favorite Broadway show or a Broadway show that you wish you were a part of or created?
Other than, I don't know why I wasn't a consultant on the Once Upon a One More Time Britney Spears musical. One of Company and Sunday in the Park with George are two of my favorite musicals. So those.
Have you seen the new production of
Yes.
Company?
Yes. And it's just, I just love that show so much.
Yeah, Sondheim was a big on the concept musical. That was
Yeah, and also reading a lot of the think pieces and articles about him after his passing was just so inspiring as well. Just sort of this idea of, I'm picky, but I'm not overly precious. And I think that was something that in some ways he was very open to new collaborators coming in and re-looking at his work in new ways. And that's why we've got Merrily and Company and Sweeney and Assassins, all these, he always kind of let his shows be seen and reimagined and kind of opened up in new ways to figure out like what are some of the messages, or how can these be living, breathing pieces, you know? And I think that I feel like what I was trying to say earlier too about, you know, why things might, you know, connect sometimes is because I am open to the living, breathing nature of what I create. And so when I work with, you know, artists, singers, collaborators, you know, I'm not thinking that I'm there. I'm not thinking I'm the smartest person in the room. You know, it's a collaborative situation, and so yeah, I was moved by reading that about him, and I kind of want to continue applying that to my work too as I move forward.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I know personally, like I only came into the musical theater world as like an observer. I would say like June of 2019, and I've never got on a stage before in my life. Like I went to an all boys like Jewish school, and like I never, like they didn't have musicals, they didn't have plays, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years ago, it's crazy to think about, but I got pushed to go on stage. It's honestly one of the most best feelings I ever felt in my life, and I'm just getting up there and singing. I'm learning. I've only like been doing this for 2 years, so for me, like when I hear like new things and everything, I'm always like, no, I got to get on this, because this like musical theater really talks so much about what's going on right now. And I think for me, at least, In Pieces says so much about like the young adults of the now, as opposed to like, you know, like just whatever. Like I feel like that you know, there's nothing really out there right now. Everything, they're trying to refurbish so much, but this is something that's new, and it's exciting, at least for me.
Well, I appreciate that, and congratulations on your new journey in the world of musical theater. That's so exciting. I think that I hope that the that we can continue to put new stories and new musical theater scores and onto the platforms that they deserve, in the city and beyond, you know, because I think that we, especially now, need to think even beyond just, you know, what where theater can live. But yeah, I hope to be a part of that continued movement for sure. There's gonna be a lot of stuff coming out. In addition to In Pieces, I have a show called Heartbreakers in Hell. That's a modern adaptation of Dante's Inferno, and and then I have another show called Forget Me Not, which is about a small coastal town still dealing with the grief of a serial killer, um, and then working on some other new pieces as well, and then continuing the some more In Pieces stuff too is in store. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited. So I'm
Thanks.
ready for it. I'm ready.
Trying to give the kids what they want, trying to give the people, you know, constant stuff to listen to.
Do it. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I hope you have a good night and a good rest of your week. We'll be in touch.
Awesome. Great. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.